Greetings, salutations, and welcome to Sportslook, the sports television program for the high plains of West Texas and eastern New Mexico. I'm your host, Doc Elder, and since there are only two sports seasons in this part of the world, football and off-season football, we're going to indulge ourselves and talk football with Mike Walton. Before we do, we're going to talk to his boss, the athletic director of Eastern New Mexico, Greg Waggoner. We're going to have a high school spotlight featuring Brandon and Ryan, but as always, I'll start out with an Eastern recap. Greyhound baseball playing this weekend against University of Texas Permian Basin. Lost the first three, but won the last one, so ended up the weekend on a positive note. And Greyhound softball took a step forward on Tuesday. Yeah, they did lose their first game against Lubbock Christian by the 10-run rule, but the second game they only lost 3-2, and both teams will be in action at home this weekend against West Texas. Well, that has been an Eastern recap, so we'll clear this out and we'll bring in Greg Waggoner right now. Welcome back to Sportslook, and we bring to the set the head man of all Eastern athletics, Dr. Greg Waggoner. And Greg, welcome to Sportslook.
Well, thank you for having me.
Greg, it doesn't seem possible. It seems like just yesterday you were getting hired, and you're in your third year here.
I am. It's gone fast. It's been fast and wonderful.
And of course, we've had some great athletic success so far. Of course, I look at the basketball season, and both of our teams finished in fourth place in the conference, and so we're a higher seeded team for the first time in, I don't know, forever.
For both teams, I think that's true. Of course, the women were a high seed the last 3 years or so. 2 years ago, they were the number one seed. So, but for both teams like that, I think it's been a long time. So I don't know when that year is, but it's been a while. So that was really exciting. Great basketball season. So we're proud of them.
Of course, these wins get attributed to your tenure as the athletic director, but I'm sure you'd be the first to say that your predecessor had kind of left the ship in pretty good shape before he departed.
Absolutely. He hired both of these coaches. Trey Sigler was hired just 2 months before I got here, but he hired both of them. Coach Prock had been here. And, yeah, I inherited a good situation. I inherited some very good coaches. So hopefully we're trying to fan some flames that Dr. Geiser put in there and enhance that in any way we can. But it's been very enjoyable to work with both Josh and Trace over the past 3 years, you bet.
I would say, and I'm just guessing out the top of my head, that probably right about now, it's probably an equal number of coaches that you've hired as opposed to coaches that you inherited.
Yeah, somewhere in there. It's somewhere in there similar, you know. Almost 50-50, maybe a hair more that I've hired by now, but almost 50-50. And it's a nice mix. It's a nice blend. You know, we've got some rank and file leadership that's been here for a while, and then some that I've been able to hire, and I think it's been a nice mesh, and we've got a good staff, no doubt about it. I'm very fortunate to be working with some really great people.
When you look, and obviously it may differ somewhat from sport to sport, but if you had to kind of summarize what you look for in a head coach, what attributes do they have to have if you want them working for you?
Integrity. Certainly integrity and in it for the right reasons. You know, we're an educational based, you know, we're competitive. We want to win. We're at the NCAA Division II collegiate level, but in a manner in which the foundation of it is the process and the individual having a good experience and being challenged and growing as a person in a lot of different dimensions, getting their college degree and those kind of things. And so I think you know, integrity and you know, someone that wants to be part of something bigger, you know, that it's very important to every one of their programs, and in their program they want their athletes to be role players too, and to understand how they work with each other, and then that's how I'd like each of my programs and our coaches to be in terms of how they support each other and interact with each other and mesh with each other, and that they fit, you know, Portales, Eastern New Mexico, and sort of understand some of the nuances that are special to here. And not every coach is the same personality, nor are they exactly the same philosophy, but how do they take their philosophy and plug it in? It's always a two-way thing so that the two are compatible. and getting an understanding of that from how we want our whole team, our whole athletic department, which is our team, to interact with each other. And, certainly like in any fast-paced environment and sometimes resource challenged, sometimes there's angst and sometimes there's always change. There's always a lot of change. And managing that and working through that, I think those are the kind of personality types. They do care about the student athlete. They're going to want to see them graduate. Those types of things are some of the primary characteristics that I look for anyway.
Greg, one thing that comes with success, there was a rap song back in the 1990s, more money, more problems, and sometimes more success, more problems, because it creates an expenditure for postseason competition in the Lone Star Conference that you can't just always anticipate at the beginning of the year.
That's right. It's a good problem to have, but it's definitely something that's challenging. Those types of things do create challenges for a need for more resources. On the other hand, hopefully those signals are picked up by both internal constituents as well as external constituents, and that support, they like the product, they like the support, they see progress, they get excited, and that can help create more support as well, is what you always hope anyway.
And of course, that leads us nicely into the fact that if people are interested in Eastern New Mexico athletics, and they're kind of just at the bread and butter level, they can be a member of the Greyhound Club. But if they want to support the teams that have had success and are going to Lone Star Conference postseason, we've started a Champions Club.
That's right. This year we launched the Champions Club, and its sole purpose is to help. We don't want making the postseason and a burden on a budget to be a penalty. So how do we help enhance that and nurture that and encourage that and support that and reward that? I think as much as anything, reward that. And that's, trying to seek excellence. Everybody likes to feel appreciated. When these coaches and student athletes work so hard and doing camps and fundraisers and community engagement and all these types of things, and they work so hard at their craft, and season's a grind, and they're up against some darn top competition. Feeling rewarded and appreciated is important for all of them, and that's a way to help do that.
And of course, if people are interested, if we have made a plea that has touched their hearts, they could contact your most excellent Secretary Kim at the athletic office.
That's correct. Yeah.
And Greg, the big question that a lot of us are having right now is the transition from the Lone Star Conference as we know it today to the Lone Star Conference is going to be next year. What, if you had to pick out like one or two sports that are really going to be impacted the most by expanding the conference, which sports are they?
Well, all of the schools that we brought in are a mix of private and public, and we certainly welcome them. It's going to be a fantastic conference in so many ways. We've gotten to know a lot of those people and their athletic directors, and so there's a lot of good things that come from this. We're going to be the largest conference at the NCAA any level. There's also a lot of complications and challenges and scheduling, and not everybody sponsors the same sport, so you have different ones located in different places, and the footprint is much larger now. And the scheduling that goes with that. And so all of them are really impacted in a lot of funny ways. Interesting enough, not one of them has football yet. I think in the long run, football may be as impacted as anything because there's so much more emphasis and concentration on other sports now. I watched the same thing happen at my previous institution. I was there a long time in the Rocky Mountain Athletic Conference when they expanded and brought in a lot of a mix of private and public non-football playing institutions. And it created some different mixes that I think were unexpected at the time. And, football is still going to be a very centerpiece. It's the Lone Star Conference, for crying out loud. And it should be. But I think there's going to be a little bit of sharing of that spotlight. And I think there's definitely some challenges for a more modestly funded, smaller marketed university like ourselves to meet the challenges on all fronts, where some of them that don't sponsor football and they're focusing on certain sports have a little different look. Or at a lot of the larger universities and larger markets that have football like us, we're kind of that tweener. And that was similar to my situation I was at my previous stop in Colorado as well. And so I think there's definitely some challenges with that and resources and growth that we need to really work hard to step up and take on. But I think we're definitely up to the task.
Well, Greg, as our segment comes to a close, I think you'll join me in reminding people that May 2nd, 3rd, and 4th, really big time, Lone Star Conference track and field, and I know the community is going to go out and support that, so best of luck putting on that event.
Thank you. We're looking forward to it, and I'd just like to say, and this weekend, we're playing WT in both softball and baseball here at Portales, so we hope we get a lot of support for that, too.
It doesn't get better than that.
You bet.
All right, well, that is going to wrap up our first interview segment, so what we'll do is we'll clear the set and we'll cue up a high school spotlight right now.
Welcome back to High School Spotlight. I'm Brandon Warren.
And I'm Ryan Schrader.
Last week, we traveled over to Roswell to watch Texico take on Dexter in the first round of the NIMI tournament.
This was a matchup that featured Texico, the defending 3A state champions, and they've now moved down into 2A.
Let's get to some highlights. Here we have the Texico Wolverines getting warmed up, going through the motions, and hoping for a win in this one.
On the other end, we've got the Dexter Demons looking to take down last year's winner of the NIMI tournament.
Robin Winton steps up to the plate here, makes great contact with the ball, gets it into right field, and the outfielder misses it. Scoops it off the ground as Winton is rounding first, isn't able to get the ball to second in time, so the runner's safe.
David Davalos at bat for the Wolverines. He steps into it, sending a ground ball over to the shortstop. He makes the throw for the first baseman, but it just misses. As the runner comes into home, Davalos will decide to stay at first.
We're all set up for the play. Pitch is a wild one and is mishandled by the catcher, and we have Davalos stealing second easily. Coming right back, Davalos will try his luck again in stealing third, but it runs out and he gets tagged out.
Jamie Chavira at the plate for Dexter. He makes contact, but it bounces right off the turf in front of him. The third baseman, Isaac Ortiz, makes the stop, but his throw is way over the head of the first baseman, sending Chavira to second. The ball bounces over the fence, making Chavira safe as second.
David Miramontes at the plate. Ball comes down the middle, strikeout. Sergio Ramirez swings and misses, strikeout. Finally, Isaac Irigoyen, a swing and a miss. Luke Phipps strikes out all three batters in this inning. What a performance.
Lefty at the plate, it's Seth Griego. He pops it up to right field, and it ends up over the head of the second baseman, allowing Griego to make it safely to first.
We got the pitcher up to bat, makes good contact, sending a low one into midfield. The defense does a good job of not making any errors and keeping Phipps from getting to second.
Griego again at bat for the Wolverines. He's going to knock one deep into right field over the head of both the outfielders. They scramble around for it, can't pick it up. They finally get it up and send it back to home, but they can't make the catch, bringing him in safe. After seeing the mishandle, Griego decides to try for third, and he'll come in safe.
Isaac Ortiz up to bat, hits it deep into midfield. Seth Griego thinks about going home, makes sure he tags up before heading towards the plate, and gets there safely with ease.
Dalton Thatcher up for Texico. He sends a blooper into left field. The outfielder secures it and attempts to throw the runner out at second rather than go home. The second baseman then attempts to throw into home, but the runner's there in time, and he'll be safe, getting Dalton Thatcher the RBI.
Cole Rohrbach up to bat, hits it right over second base where Freddie Davalos is. Davalos, already taking off, is told to round third. He's a speedster here and is in a race against the ball, making it to home before the defense can get it there.
Here's the pitcher for Dexter showing us what he can do. He'll strike out the batter swinging and make his way to the dugout to end the inning.
Sergio Ramirez hits it late off the swing, sending it right down the third base path. It hits the ground and keeps rolling. Texico can't pick it up in time to get it down to third base, so Ramirez picks up the very nice triple and shows off his speed while doing so.
And here again, folks, is really the story of the game. Pitcher Luke Phipps striking out two batters to end the game and take home the win for Texico. He ended this game with just 2 hits allowed, 1 run allowed, and he tallied 11 total strikeouts in just 7 innings.
Now moving on to some rankings. In 1A, Gateway Christian leads the pack with a perfect 4-0 record, followed by Floyd at 3-1, Hemis Valley 3-1, Dora 2-2, and Elida 2-2.
Taking a look over at 2A, the Eunice Cardinals lead the pack with a record of 6-1, followed closely by Texico at 4-2 and Mora at 5-1.
In 3A, rounding out the top 5, we have Santa Fe Indian School, Robertson, and St. Michael's.
Taking a look over at 4A, we've got Los Lunas, Artesia, St. Pius, Goddard, and Mayamura.
And finally, in 5A, Cleveland in the number 1 spot at 14-2, followed by Rio Rancho and La Cueva at the number 5. Thanks for watching High School Spotlight.
Before we send you back to Doc, make sure you go and like us on Facebook, follow us on Instagram and Twitter, and subscribe to our YouTube channel for more updates, photos, and highlights.
Once again, I'm Brandon Warren,
And I'm Ryan Schrader.
and we'll see you next time.
Welcome back to Sportslook. Thanks to Brandon and Ryan for that look at Dexter and the Texico Wolverines. And speaking of Wolverines, I believe we've got a former Wolverine of the Spring Lake Earth Variety, Mike Walton.
Yeah, good. Yeah, those were the good old days. A few years back, I had a few more hairs on the top of my head.
Coach, you look like you can still get out there and lead Spring Lake Earth to another long run in the Texas playoffs.
I don't know about that, but I appreciate the compliment.
Coach, we haven't had a chance to talk to you since the end of the football season, and congratulations to you, everybody associated with Greyhound football, on winning that last game of the season and getting a winning record.
Yeah, we were excited about that. I think the kids, sometimes you're concerned at the end of the year whenever you're not playing for a playoff spot or a bowl berth, that how kids are going to respond. And our kids did a great job of stepping up, and of course Western Oregon, credit to them, they came down on a long road trip and fought to the end, and it came down to the end of the game.
Coach, obviously looking at the scores from the fall and looking at the scores from the first 3 or 4 weeks of the season to the last 3 or 4 weeks, your defense got immeasurably better. What was the key?
Oh, I think at the beginning of the season, I think there's twofold. Going through the spring when you have to face the option, sometimes, it's a double-edged sword. You're helping your kids get tougher, but you don't see a variety of formations that you see during the season. So as far as experimenting and being able to match up your kids in Saturday-like situations, you don't always get those. So about the first 6 quarters of the season, we were trying to figure out who we had, what we could play, and once we got that figured out and we narrowed some things down, our kids really did a good job of playing. They could play faster and weren't thinking as much, and so coaches finally got out of the way and let them play is what it was.
I have an opinion. I'll be interested to see whether mine matches up with yours. What was the best defensive effort last year?
Oh, I think obviously the wagon wheel game was probably the one that sticks out. It was a complete game. Certainly we had an opportunity to shut UTPB out as well as Western New Mexico, and I think they each got 1 score or something. But there was times in those 2 games where it felt like we had to scramble to regroup in a few situations. I think the WT game, we had complete control from start to finish, and it never felt like they had an upper hand on us at all, even on a few short fields.
Coach, it is the springtime, and you guys put it to good use. You put together some good weeks, and you finished up with the spring game. We've actually got highlights of that, courtesy of our crew. So let's cue up the highlight reel, and let's take a look at the spring edition of Greyhound football.
I think we're going to open here on a 3rd and 10, and we had flags on the quarterback, and I think old Jacob had his tied in a knot or something there. I couldn't get it off of him. So he did a good job of scrambling, and had that been a live situation, I think we would have got him down. Here's a nice run by Askew. Did a good job breaking a few tackles, and we didn't tackle very well, but I think he came along throughout the whole spring. He did a good job for us on special teams. And, busted play defensively here on a blitz, and Tyreek Branch makes a nice run. Vicente runs him down, and they set him up for this score right here on a short field. It was a nice little cut back there by the running back. There's a nice play by Kier Gragg. I was glad to see him. He missed about a week and a half with the concussion and came back, and you could sure feel a difference when he was in there. Just a more experienced kid. Nice little play here by the Green offense, a nice catch by Fields. It's questionable whether he had it from a defensive standpoint, but it was a nice throw and a nice catch, and they gave him the touchdown. And of course, our senior quarterback making a nice play scrambling here. That's Justin Manyweather here, and I believe he's going to catch the pitch here and make a defensive player miss. He's really come along at the end of spring, getting himself in shape, and he's a transfer from Fullerton College. He's going to help us in the return game as well as be an offensive weapon. And of course, this is Paul Terry here, who I think he just continues to get better every day, and he's a good leader. And he did a good job all spring. A nice play here by Jacob, making a nice pitch. This was after a bad snap on a punt, so this was a chance to get the game to one score here at the end to make the spring game a little too exciting for the defensive coaches. But the Green was able to get a stop at the end. And I told somebody earlier here, I think we were talking, I think Coach Lee picked all those highlights from an offensive standpoint.
Well, Coach, obviously you had it's a team defense, but you clearly have key components.
Mm-hmm.
And Noah Schweitzer was a huge player for last year. Had to be a real pleasant surprise for you.
Oh, absolutely. And, not only that, he's a great kid and a great student, And I think, that's the one thing I can say about our kids. We have good kids, and they do right in the classroom, and I think they're positive in the community. So we're really excited about all of them. But Noah, we're excited to have him. We held him out most of the second half of that spring game, and I think we give some other kids some opportunity to showcase what they can do, and we kind of know where Noah stands, obviously.
In terms of defense, there are so many things you got to be able to do. You've got to be able to stop the run. You've got to be able to stop the short passing game, long passing game. What facet of the defense were you most pleased with this spring?
Well, I thought that our kids came along at the end and were understanding how to practice a little bit. The last 2 or 3 practices, we approached it more businesslike. And I think from a standpoint today, I don't think kids realize how important practice is. I think you got the old Allen Iverson practice. We're talking about practice, and those kids there's not very many gamers. Michael Jordan, maybe Allen Iverson. Most of us aren't gamers, so how we approach our preparation, I think, was what pleased me. And, a lot of people can't see those things behind the scenes, but I hope we turned a corner there, and I feel like we did. I hope we can continue to keep that ball rolling this summer and into the fall.
Obviously, the Lone Star Conference, there are some really good running backs, but more often than not, it's the teams that can sling it around the field a little bit. And I was really impressed with how your pass defense improved as the season went on, but you lost a couple of key defensive backs. How are the new kids looking?
Well, certainly, you lose a kid like Todd County, who has played a lot of football games here, and we're going to certainly miss him. But I think the kids that we got coming in did a good job this spring. They're going to need the summer and fall camp to get ready, and I think that, like I alluded to earlier, I think they understand that and realize that, and I think they'll handle that. But we feel good about what we got coming back. We feel like we got a chance to be in the thick of things and when it's all said and done. And like you said, the passing game in this conference is, we got 2 new offensive coordinators in the conference, I think, maybe 3, but I know the guy at Angelo State and the new offensive coordinator at WT are all air raid guys. So it's going to, we're turning, when I left the conference in 13, it was an air raid type conference, and I think it's heading back that direction. So, with our offense, though, I feel good about our chances, because sometimes those guys, they're all about reps and getting the number of snaps, and if we get going offensively, we can, sometimes that's our best defense, is a good offense, and keeping their offense off the field.
Of course, last year we had like the toughest schedule in Division II, and it doesn't look on paper like it's going to get any easier.
No, it doesn't. I'm just hoping they graduated enough people that they're trying to break in some new kids, and there is going to be some turnover as far as coaching staff wise, and at least hopefully when they play us, that maybe that sets them back a little bit. But you're right, it doesn't get any easier, and then So we'll have our work cut out for us, and we're going to need the whole summer and, fall camp to get ready.
Speaking of summer, one of the cool things that we do at Eastern New Mexico University is we do a 7-on-7 camp that's the largest one in New Mexico.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, Coach Lee, and which is ironic, an option team putting on the biggest 7-on-7 camp. But it really is a good deal. Coach gives them a cut rate deal, and they get, they're guaranteed so many games, and it's only a day, and Mr. Lopez in the community does a good job of helping us out and feeding them lunch. And so that's attractive to coaches, and because it's really, on some of these schools' budgets, get by that time of the year, they're at the end of their budget, so they need all the help they can get. And it gets a lot of kids on campus, as far as from a recruiting standpoint, they get an opportunity to play in the stadium and be on campus and to be around us as coaches. And so there's a lot of win-wins in that whole situation.
Well, Mike, thanks so much for being my guest. Enjoy what's left of this school year in the summer, and looking forward to seeing you guys in action in August.
Well, thanks for all you do for our athletic department.
Well, that is going to wrap up the interview segment of Sportslook. So what we'll do is we'll clear the set, and I'll finish up with an overtime right now. Congratulations to Fred Hoiberg, who earlier this week was named the head men's basketball coach at the University of Nebraska. Prior to being in Nebraska, he was the head coach of the Chicago Bulls. Before being with the Chicago Bulls, he played for the Minnesota Timberwolves. Before being with the Timberwolves, he played collegiately at Iowa State University. Before he was at Iowa State University, he played for Ames High School in Ames, Iowa. Ames High School, part of the Iowa Metro Conference, where a few years ago, a certain sportscaster named Doc Elder played his high school ball. Well, that is going to wrap up in overtime, and that will wrap up an episode of Sportslook. I'd like to thank my guests, Mike Walton and Greg Waggoner. I'd like to thank Brandon and Ryan for the high school spotlight. I actually had two floor directors. I had Markel and Griff. So for those aforementioned people, this is Doc Elder saying, so long.
This was a matchup that featured the defending 3A state champion Texico Wolverines, who've now moved down to Class 2A. And yabba dabba doo!